The first and most powerful boundary is self-respect. Everything begins there, because if you do not respect yourself, no one else truly can. Self-respect is not about arrogance. It is not about walking into a room and announcing your worth with noise. It is about carrying yourself with a quiet confidence that speaks before you even open your mouth. It is the unshakable energy that says, I know who I am, I know what I bring, and I am not here to beg for validation. When you truly respect yourself, you stop allowing people to treat you in ways that chip away at your dignity. You no longer entertain disrespect disguised as humor, indifference disguised as busyness, or manipulation disguised as love. Self-respect is the invisible shield that separates you from those who cannot value your presence. And the truth is, Val, you woman is drawn to this shield because it mirrors her own. She recognizes the strength in someone who does not have to plead for attention, who does not bend their standards just to avoid being alone, and who does not sacrifice their essence in the name of being liked. Think about the moments in life when you lowered your standards just to fit into a situation, when you said yes, though your spirit was screaming no, or when you stayed silent to keep the peace while your soul felt crushed. Those are the very moments when self-respect slipped away, when you taught others that it was acceptable to cross boundaries. But the moment you reclaim it, the moment you decide that your voice, your needs, your dreams, and your well-being matter, you create a new standard. And that standard changes everything about the energy you attract. Self-respect looks like saying no without guilt. It looks like leaving the table when love is no longer being served. It looks like showing up for yourself with the same devotion you show others. It is understanding that your body, your time, your mind, and your heart are sacred places, not public playgrounds. And when you embody that, people notice. They notice not because you shout it, but because you live it. Val, you woman is not looking for perfection, but she is always drawn to presence, to strength, to someone who treats themselves like they matter. Imagine two people walking into a room. One enters nervously, scanning faces for approval, shrinking into the background, hoping to be chosen. The other enters with grace, not needing to be the loudest, but owning their space with quiet certainty. Which one do you think she notices? Which one radiates energy that says, I do not chase, I attract. I do not beg, I choose. I do not cling, I flow. That is the difference self-respect makes. It shifts you from seeking value to embodying it. And here's the truth. When you respect yourself, you raise the bar. You no longer engage in games. You no longer trade your peace for crumbs of attention. You no longer settle for connections that don't honor you. And in that shift, you stop chasing what is not meant for you and start attracting what is aligned with you. Val, you women don't just see this, they feel it. They are naturally pulled toward people who live in alignment with their worth, because it creates safety, trust, and admiration. So let this be a reminder, self-respect is not optional, it is magnetic. It is the boundary that tells the world how to treat you without saying a word. And when you hold it firm, you will find that you don't have to pursue validation anymore. The right people, the right energy, the right woman, will be drawn to you simply because you respect yourself enough to live as though you already matter, because you always did. Time and energy are two of the most valuable currencies you will ever possess, and the way you protect them defines the life you live. Every single person on this planet gets 24 hours in a day, but what separates those who thrive from those who merely survive is how they choose to spend those hours and with whom they allow themselves to spend them. When you set a firm boundary around your time and energy, you are making a declaration that says, I will no longer pour myself into spaces, people, and activities that drain me instead of feed me. That decision changes the quality of your life, and it also changes the type of people you draw toward you. Val, you women are naturally drawn to those who understand the sacredness of time. Why? Because they themselves know how costly it is to waste it. They live with purpose, they live with intention, and when they meet someone who treats their time with the same reverence, it feels like recognition. It tells them, Here is someone who values themselves enough not to be available to everything and everyone. That presence is magnetic because it shows discipline, and discipline is the root of respect. Think about how often people give their energy away without thought. They say yes to events they don't care about. They engage in conversations that leave them feeling drained. They spend hours scrolling on screens, investing in other people's lives while neglecting their own. They chase relationships that give nothing in return. And in all of that, they wonder why they feel empty, unfulfilled, and invisible. The truth is, when your time and energy are scattered everywhere, your presence weakens. But when you protect them, when you become intentional about who gets access to you, you become sharper, fuller, more radiant. That radiance does not go unnoticed. Protecting your time is not about being cold or distant. It is about clarity. It is about knowing that every yes you give to someone or something is also a no to something else. So when you say yes to people who disrespect your energy, you are saying no to your growth. When you say yes to meaningless distractions, you are saying no to your dreams. Hi, Val. You women are drawn to those who understand this because it shows that you are not careless with yourself. You know your priorities. You live in alignment. You honor your commitments to yourself before you stretch yourself thin for others. And here's the beauty of it. When you guard your time and energy, you naturally begin to attract people who honor those boundaries. Those who thrive on chaos, drama, and games will fall away because they cannot access you anymore. But those who live with purpose will step closer because your boundary speaks the same language as theirs. Hi, Val. You woman looks for someone who doesn't just have time, but someone who knows the worth of time. She looks for someone who invests energy in growth, joy, creativity, and love, not someone who scatters it across empty pursuits. So ask yourself, where is your energy leaking? Who are you giving your time to that doesn't deserve it? What routines, what habits, what distractions are stealing the hours you can never get back? Because every moment spent on what does not serve you is a moment you cannot invest in what will transform you. The moment you reclaim that power, the moment you start protecting your time and energy like treasures, you will notice something powerful. You won't need to run after respect, after love, after recognition. They will come to you. The people who truly value themselves will feel at home with you because you live by the same principle. My time is sacred, my energy is sacred, and I will not waste them. Emotional maturity is one of the rarest and most magnetic qualities a person can embody. It is the calm in the storm, the stillness in the chaos, the ability to respond rather than react. When life throws challenges, as it always does, emotional maturity is what allows you to stand tall instead of crumbling, to breathe instead of breaking, to seek understanding instead of creating conflict, and it is this strength, quiet but undeniable, that draws you women closer because it signals safety, depth, and reliability. Many people live on the surface of their emotions. They explode when they're angry, they shut down when they're hurt, they withdraw when they're afraid. Their feelings control them instead of the other way around, but emotional maturity looks different. It doesn't mean you don't feel deeply. It means you know how to process those feelings without letting them poison the connection you have with yourself or others. It means you can have a disagreement without disrespect. It means you can be vulnerable without losing control. It means you can express yourself without making someone else carry the weight of your storms. Val, you woman doesn't look for perfection. She doesn't expect a life without conflict or struggle. What she values is someone who can handle difficulty with grace. Imagine this. Two people face the same challenge. One lashes out, blames, criticizes, and demands. The other takes a breath, listens, and communicates with honesty and calm. Which one creates trust? Which one makes someone feel safe to be open, to share, to lean in? Emotional maturity is not about never raising your voice. It's about never losing your center. It's about knowing that peace inside yourself is more important than winning an argument, This maturity shows up in small, everyday ways. It's the choice to pause before reacting. It's the decision to ask, what is really happening here, instead of assuming the worst. It's taking accountability when you've made a mistake instead of shifting the blame. It's allowing yourself to feel sadness, anger, or frustration without letting those emotions dictate destructive actions. When you carry yourself this way, you create an environment of emotional safety, and safety is one of the most powerful forms of attraction there is. Hi Val, you women are deeply intuitive. They sense when someone's energy is volatile, when emotions are unmanaged, when chaos sits just beneath the surface. That energy repels them because it signals instability. But when they meet someone grounded, someone who does not run from their feelings, someone who can navigate both joy and pain with balance, it feels magnetic. It feels rare. It feels like someone who is not just surviving but growing. Think of emotional maturity as strength without hardness, softness without weakness. It is the ability to be both powerful and gentle, both assertive and compassionate. It is knowing when to hold space and when to let go. It is being honest about what you feel, while also respecting the feelings of others. This is not only attractive, it is transformative. It builds trust, it creates deeper bonds, and it sets you apart in a world where so many people are ruled by impulse instead of wisdom. So ask yourself, how do you show up in moments of conflict? Do you listen, or do you only wait to reply? Do you seek understanding, or do you seek to be right? Do you allow others to feel safe with their truth, or do you punish them for not meeting your expectations? Your answers reveal your level of emotional maturity. And when you grow in this area, when you practice calm over chaos, empathy over ego, presence over pride, you elevate yourself in a way that cannot be faked. That elevation doesn't just attract, it inspires. It inspires respect, trust, and admiration, the very things that you women hold as essential. Standards are the invisible lines you draw in your life that tell the world what you will and will not accept. They are not rules for others, they are commitments to yourself. When you hold firm to your standards, you communicate without words that you know your value, and you are unwilling to compromise the essence of who you are for temporary comfort, fleeting attention, or shallow approval. Hi Val, you women are drawn to this like a flame because they, too, live by standards. They recognize integrity when they see it, and they admire someone who refuses to bend their core just to please the crowd. Too often, people confuse standards with demands. A demand says, you must change so I can feel comfortable. A standard says, this is who I am and this is how I live. If it aligns with you, welcome. If it does not, I wish you well, but I will not lower myself to fit into your world. There is power in that. There is strength in being unwavering, and there is magnetism in being someone who does not flinch when others try to test the limits. Think back to the times you compromised your standards. Perhaps you accepted behavior you knew was disrespectful because you didn't want to lose someone. Maybe you silenced your values in a room full of people because you didn't want to be the odd one out. Or maybe you stayed in situations far longer than you should have because you thought lowering the bar was better than being alone. Every one of those moments leaves a mark, not because others failed you, but because you failed yourself. But the moment you decide, I will never again betray my standards to be liked, loved, or accepted, you shift. You reclaim your power, and you begin to attract relationships that honor you instead of deplete you. Hi Val, you women are not impressed by surface-level charms, nor are they captivated by empty promises. They are moved by consistency. They notice when your actions align with your words. They notice when you walk away from environments that don't honor your principles. They notice when you hold yourself accountable to the very same expectations you place on others. And that consistency builds respect, because respect cannot grow in the absence of standards. Your standards are not just about relationships. They shape every area of your life. The way you care for your body, the way you speak to yourself, the company you keep, the habits you practice, the work you commit to. All of it is a reflection of where your line is drawn. And when someone sees that you live with intention, that you are not careless about your choices, they understand something powerful. You are not someone who can be easily swayed. You are not someone who settles. You are not someone who is desperate to be chosen. You are someone who chooses carefully, deliberately, and with self-respect guiding the way. And that is attractive, not because it makes you untouchable, but because it makes you trustworthy. It says, if I honor myself this way, I will honor you the same way. Hi, Val, you women want alignment, not control. They want connection, not compromise of identity. They want partnership, not possession. And when they encounter someone who lives by standards, they lean in because it feels safe, strong, and real. So here is the truth. If you lower your standards, you may attract attention, but you will never attract respect. You may gain company, but you will never gain connection. The right people are not repelled by your standards. They are inspired by them. They see them as a mirror of their own, and that recognition creates the spark of something lasting. The boundary of standards is not just about keeping others out. It's about keeping yourself aligned with the highest version of who you are. And when you live there, when you refuse to negotiate your core values, you become magnetic not because you are trying to attract, but because you have already chosen to rise. Independence is one of the most powerful boundaries you can embody because it says, I am whole on my own, and everything I invite into my life is an addition, not a completion. Too many people approach relationships from a place of emptiness, hoping that another person will fill the voids they have not yet healed. But true independence means you are not waiting for someone to rescue you, validate you, or build you. You are already doing that work yourself, and that energy, complete, confident, self-sufficient, is irresistible to a high, Val, you woman. Independence is not about rejecting connection or pretending you don't need anyone. It is about creating a life so rich and fulfilling that you do not cling to another person out of fear of being alone. It's about standing on your own 2 feet, financially, emotionally, spiritually, and socially, so that your relationships are born from desire, not desperation. When you live this way, your presence communicates abundance. You radiate strength, balance, and security because you are not looking for someone to complete you. You are looking for someone to complement you. A high, Val, you woman feels this instantly. She feels the difference between someone who is whole and someone who is seeking wholeness through her. The former draws her in because it shows maturity and strength. The latter pushes her away because it signals dependency and instability. Independence is magnetic because it creates space for freedom within a relationship. It says, I have my passions, you have yours, and together we can support each other without losing ourselves. That is the foundation of a healthy, lasting connection. Think about how independence shows up in everyday life. It looks like pursuing your goals with determination, not waiting for permission or encouragement before taking the first step. It looks like having your own circle of friends, your own hobbies, your own passions, instead of revolving your entire existence around another person. It looks like being able to enjoy solitude without fear, because you understand that your worth is not tied to constant company. Independence allows you to walk into a relationship with a full cup, ready to share, not to drain. On the flip side, dependency often suffocates. When someone's happiness, self-esteem, or direction in life rests entirely on another, the weight becomes too heavy. It creates pressure, resentment, and imbalance. A high, Val, you woman will not remain in that dynamic because she understands that love cannot thrive where freedom does not exist. But when she meets someone who is strong in themselves, who has carved out a life they are proud of, who knows how to stand tall with or without a partner, she feels inspired rather than burdened. Independence also signals resilience. It shows that you can weather storms without collapsing, that you can handle challenges without falling apart, that you can make decisions without needing constant approval. And that resilience is deeply attractive because it shows reliability. It tells her, if life gets difficult, I can trust this person to stand, not to crumble. That trust becomes the foundation for deeper intimacy and respect. And perhaps the most beautiful part of independence is that it creates space for love to be pure. When you don't need someone to validate your existence, you can love them freely, fully, without conditions. Your connection becomes a choice, not a necessity, and nothing is more attractive than being chosen by someone who doesn't need you to survive, but wants you because they see your value. That choice is where passion thrives, where admiration grows, and where respect deepens. So let this be a reminder: independence is not selfish, and it is not cold. It is love for yourself expressed in the way you live. It is the declaration that your happiness, your purpose, your fulfillment are your responsibility. And when you stand in that truth, you will find that you no longer chase validation, affection, or approval. The right woman, the high value woman, will be drawn to you, not because you need her to complete you, but because you are already complete. And that kind of energy is irresistible. Communication is one of the clearest reflections of who you are, because the way you express yourself reveals the way you think, the way you value yourself, and the way you value others. Too many people underestimate the power of words, yet words can build trust or destroy it. They can invite closeness or create distance. They can either show confidence or expose insecurity. And the truth is, you women are not drawn to empty talk, nor are they impressed by games, manipulation, or bravado. They are drawn to clarity, honesty, kindness, and the strength of someone who can speak their truth without fear. Healthy communication begins with self-awareness. You cannot speak clearly if you do not know yourself clearly. When you know what you believe, what you value, and what you want, your words carry weight. They no longer stumble around uncertainty. They no longer dance around the truth. They no longer disguise intentions. They are direct, but they are also respectful. A person who communicates with honesty shows courage, because it is easier to hide behind silence or to mask intentions with vague words. But clarity is magnetic. It says, I am not afraid to be seen. I am not afraid to be understood. I trust myself enough to speak openly. For many, communication becomes a weapon. They use it to dominate, to control, to belittle, to manipulate. But you women see through that immediately. They know the difference between strength and aggression, between assertiveness and arrogance. What draws them in is someone who uses communication as a bridge, not a barrier. Someone who listens as much as they speak. Someone who makes space for another's truth instead of silencing it. Someone who understands that real power in conversation comes not from shouting the loudest, but from creating connection. Think about how powerful it is when someone can express what they feel without blaming, without shaming, without playing games. Imagine the impact of being told, here is what I feel, here is what I need, and here is where I stand, in a calm, respectful tone. That is communication that builds trust. That is communication that eliminates confusion. That is communication that signals maturity. And that maturity is magnetic because it makes a you woman feel safe to be open, safe to be vulnerable, safe to be herself. Good communication is not only about words, it is also about listening. When you truly listen, not just to reply but to understand, you send a powerful message. What you say matters to me, who you are matters to me. That kind of attention is rare because so many people only hear enough to defend themselves. But deep listening creates intimacy. It creates connection, and it shows a level of presence that is deeply attractive. There is also power in how you communicate during conflict. Anyone can speak beautifully when everything is going well, but how you express yourself when emotions run high reveals your character. Do you raise your voice, cut people down, or shut them out? Or do you choose to stay grounded, to explain rather than attack, to resolve rather than escalate? Hi, Val. You woman pays attention to this because it shows how safe or unsafe a future with you would feel. If your communication breeds peace instead of chaos, you become someone she trusts, admires, and respects. At its core, communication is not just about exchanging words, it is about exchanging energy. The tone, the body language, the eye contact, the timing all matter. When you speak with authenticity, with kindness, with strength wrapped in gentleness, you project a presence that feels rare and magnetic. You don't need to raise your voice to command attention. You simply need to be real, and realness is what attracts those who are also real. So let this be the reminder: communication is not about talking more, it is about talking true. It is not about winning arguments, it is about building bridges. It is not about impressing with cleverness, it is about expressing with honesty. Hi, Val. You women are drawn to those who speak with clarity, who listen with care, and who carry their words with integrity. Because in a world full of noise, authentic communication is rare, and when you embody it, you don't just speak, you resonate. And that resonance is unforgettable.